Last night's fourth Democratic presidential debate was the most crowded one yet. 12 candidates packing the stage. They sparred on a range of issues from healthcare to taxes, all the way to foreign policy. But they were all in agreement on one thing: the impeachment inquiry into Donald Trump.
We have an erratic, crazy president who knows not a damn thing about foreign policy.
This president has betrayed American values.
He's now led us down this dangerous path. I saw this play in 2016's election.
He has committed crimes in plain sight.
And you'll remember it was a controversial phone call about Joe Biden and his son that touched off the current impeachment inquiry. Well, with that, let's bring in Lindsay Duncombe. She was watching last night's Democratic debate. She joins us right now in Washington with more on what was said. So, Lindsay, hello to you. Let's talk about Senator Elizabeth Warren from Massachusetts. She's been rising in the polls lately, now the perceived frontrunner, and that really made her a target for the other candidates last night.
Yeah, how do you know you're ahead in the polls? It's when all of the other people on the stage gang up against you, and that certainly is what happened with Elizabeth Warren. And that attack came from the party's moderates on the stage, and it was particularly noticeable on one issue, and that issue is health care, because Elizabeth Warren has signed on to Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All plan. That would mean no more private insurance, more of a universal payer system. But Bernie Sanders says in order to make that happen, in order to get rid of premiums and copays, there would be a tax increase. Warren has not said that explicitly. She didn't say it explicitly last night. And some of the more moderate people on the stage, people that want to continue to be part of this debate, certainly took her on that. Here's what it sounded like.
I don't understand why you believe the only way to deliver affordable coverage to everybody is to obliterate private plans.
At least Bernie's being honest here and saying how he's going to pay for this and that taxes are going to go up. And I'm sorry, Elizabeth, but you have not said that. And I think we owe it to the American people to tell them where we're going to send the invoice.
My commitment is I will not sign a bill into law that raises costs on middle-class families.
So as you say, Lindsay, you can tell that Elizabeth Warren is doing well in the polls as she was the center of so many of those targeted attacks. But let's talk about Joe Biden, though, because as we mentioned right off top, he still could not shake off the Ukraine controversy last night. Talk to us about what was said and what he responded, or how he responded to that.
Well, it's notable that the Ukraine controversy and the unfounded allegations against Joe Biden's son for work he did in Ukraine while Joe Biden were vice president did not come from any of the other people on the stage. In fact, it was a question from the moderators, which Joe Biden answered by saying that he did nothing wrong and his son did nothing wrong, and then turning it to being that the president, Donald Trump, is afraid of Joe Biden, and that's why this keeps coming up. But what we're seeing is all of the other candidates not really wanting to engage on that because they don't really want to give fuel to the fire on these attacks on Joe Biden and make it look like what Donald Trump is doing is legitimate. So that was the moment where Joe Biden really had the spotlight, but he sort of faded in the background in the rest of the debate. The other thing that was really interesting to watch in this, Michael, is Bernie Sanders. Of course, we hadn't seen him in a big public event like this since he had a heart attack earlier this month, and my Twitter was lit up with everyone saying how good he looked, how strong he looked, how vital he looked for someone who's 78 years old. And to further signal that Sanders is not going anywhere, he is expected to be endorsed by some party superstars on the weekend, including Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the New York superstar, social media phenom, and really seen as being the party's far left youth ambassador. She's signing on to Bernie's team.
Okay, Lindsay, thank you for that. Appreciate the update and analysis. Our Lindsay Duncombe in Washington.